Welcome to this video presentation by the SALT Institute. It is a practical and comprehensive look at a very important wintertime subject, snow and ice control on our streets and highways. What you are about to see is a collection of 3 videos that have been used as part of the Institute's highly successful Sensible Salting program. The purpose of the program is simple: to help the hard-working public works professionals, those who do the demanding work of snow and ice control, to do the most effective and most efficient job possible. A snowfighter's job is one in which expectations are always high and where recognition is, unfortunately, too often low. Snowfighters are winter's unsung heroes, providing an invaluable public service by keeping our society moving and moving safely during the most hazardous winter driving conditions. Our first video, The Snowfighters, tells their impressive story.
Motor vehicles and the road systems they travel are the lifeblood of modern nations, carrying necessary goods and services and providing the freedom of movement of people. Without this vast transportation system, modern societies would cease to exist. We would all be at a loss without them. It's obvious that free-flowing traffic all year round is absolutely essential. Like the blood in our veins, we can't do without it. A winter storm can have a devastating effect on this essential mobility. Snow and ice create a menacing and costly hazard on streets and highways. Keeping roads open and safe is difficult and demanding. It requires thorough preparation and competent, conscientious snowfighters. Controlling snow and ice is of special concern to people in much of the United States and Canada, not only because of its impact upon their mobility, safety, and well-being, but because it's costly. Street and highway agencies use various kinds of snow fighting equipment, and their procedures differ, but they all have the same goal: to keep roads open as efficiently, effectively, and inexpensively as possible. To accomplish this, there are certain basic requirements. Most importantly, snowfighters who know what they're doing. Good, dependable equipment is essential for the tough demands of snowfighting. Another need is salt, the least expensive, safest, and most effective de-icer, and one of the very best snowfighting tools. Preparation and planning are also essential. To protect operators, equipment, and the public, hazards that can be hidden by snow must be clearly marked. Anything that a plow blade or a vehicle might hit. Markers and reflectors should be placed high enough to remain visible above drifts and windrows. This kind of inspection may uncover maintenance problems not directly connected with snow fighting. To prevent obstruction to snow removal operations, key routes must be marked to prohibit parking during snow emergencies. Otherwise, every street becomes an obstacle course, and efficient snow removal is impossible. Snow fences placed in open areas can minimize the problems of drifting, which can close roads and make snow removal more troublesome and more costly. Good preventive maintenance is necessary in order to reduce other potential problems. Without reliable equipment, a snow fighter might just as well go out on the road with nothing but a shovel. Every snow fighting vehicle needs total inspection and servicing before winter. Not just an oil change and lube job, but everything. A checklist should be signed by the person performing the inspection. Not only is maintenance important before a vehicle goes out, but also at the conclusion of snow fighting operations. All necessary repairs should be made as soon as possible so the vehicle is ready for the next storm. Gearing up mentally for snow and ice control is just as important to avoid potential dangers and problems. Pre-winter training will familiarize snow fighters with approved snow fighting methods and procedures, changes, new developments, and safety precautions so they can do the best job possible. The Snow Fighter's Handbook and several other available booklets provide good guidelines for snow fighting. Heavily traveled routes will probably be scheduled for removal of all snow and ice. Bare pavement maintenance, the Snow Fighter's standard of excellence for optimum public safety. Snow fighters must be completely familiar with roads or streets they'll be clearing of snow or ice when a storm strikes. Even if it's the same route they had last winter, there may be changes. So they should go over it again to identify any new signs, hydrants, or other things that could be potential hazards to plows and vehicles. Knowing the job is just as important in snow fighting as reliable equipment. Plows are the basic snow movers. The most common ones throw snow to one side, usually to the right. On expressways and interstate highways, reversible plows are widely used. The addition of wings increases their snow-moving capability. Many departments use underbody plows with great success. The blade location between front and rear wheels provides good vehicle control and permits high-speed operation. The flexible blade settings of the road grader make it a good snow mover. The front-end loader can be a great help where plows can't maneuver, such as on overpasses and bridges or at intersections. The tools for snow removal are almost as varied as the storm conditions faced by snow fighters. No matter how good the snow-moving equipment, it has limitations. Rarely can a plow, grader, bucket, or blower get a pavement bare. The final layer of snow can quickly turn to ice under traffic. And there are times when a light snowfall or sleet, which can't be plowed effectively, or freezing rain, can produce a coating of ice and close a road just as completely as a couple feet of snow. These are especially the times when salt becomes an important tool for snow fighters. Salt penetrates the snow, ice, or hardpack and forms a brine that prevents bonding to the pavement. The best way to get bare pavement and keep it bare is to put salt down early in the storm. Salt is used mostly in conjunction with plowing, which is the principal method of snow removal. Salt makes plowing easier and helps prevent formation of hardpack that plows can't remove. But for light snowfalls, freezing rain, and ice, salt is often the only effective tool. It's important to give salt time to work. Traffic must be kept moving. The action of vehicle wheels helps brine do its job. So long as the slush is soft and fans out from tires like water, the salt is working. But when the slush becomes mealy, begins to stiffen, and is thrown directly to the rear of tires, it's time to plow again and spread more salt. Once the road is clear, shoulders should be winged back to make room for snow plowed in later storms and for disabled vehicles. Special attention must be given to bridges and overpasses. They'll be the first to freeze if they're wet or slushy, even after the storm has passed. Salt is applied with a variety of spreaders: under tailgate, toad, or V-box. The key to successful use of salt is application of the correct amount required by weather and road conditions. Guidelines can help, but often it takes experience to know just how much to use. Salt spreading should start as soon as there is sufficient accumulation to hold the salt on the road and form brine. Waiting too long will make the salt less effective, the plowing more difficult, and require more time to reach bare pavement. Since each storm is different, requiring a different method of attack, guidelines for salt application are available. For instance, with the temperature holding near 30 and wet pavement, with freezing rain, apply salt at 200 pounds per 2-lane mile and reapply as necessary. Sleet, 500 pounds. Accumulating snow, 500 pounds per 2-lane mile while plowing. Below freezing and the temperature falling, 200 to 400 pounds of salt for freezing rain. Sleet or snow, temperature falling, 300 to 800 pounds, repeating until it stops. Dry snow, dry pavement, temperature below 20 and falling, plow immediately and apply salt only to wet, packed, or icy spots. For packed snow and ice at freezing temperatures down to 0, 500 pounds of salt per 2-lane mile should be spread. When the snow becomes mealy or slushy, plowing should begin. The operation should be repeated until bare pavement is reached. Some agencies have found that salt treated with liquid calcium chloride can be more effective at low temperatures. Abrasives sweetened with salt will provide traction when temperatures are so extremely low that deicers are less effective. Once in a while, Mother Nature hits us with heavy snow, wind, and bitter cold, when about all one can do is plow and pray. But most storms occur above 20 degrees, when salt is especially effective. Using salt properly means knowing when to spread and exactly how much the spreader is discharging. Since no two spreaders are exactly alike, each one must be calibrated before winter. The Salt Institute has an easy calibration method. First, some salt is placed in the spreader to put weight on the auger or conveyor. Next, the end of the auger or conveyor shaft is marked. Now the number of complete turns the shaft makes in 1 minute at each setting of the auger or conveyor control are counted. This figure is recorded. With a V-box, the gate opening must be recorded, because the calibration will be correct only for that particular size opening. A sample calibration at one control setting will help explain how to calibrate. At setting 4, for example, the shaft might make 5 revolutions. With a piece of canvas or other suitable material or container, the salt discharged by just 1 complete turn of the shaft is collected. Let's assume that 50 pounds of salt is discharged in 1 turn of the shaft. This figure will not change, no matter how fast or slow the shaft turns. To find out how much salt is discharged per minute, the number of pounds is multiplied by the number of turns per minute. At setting 4, it's 5 times 50, 250 pounds. If we know how much salt is discharged per minute and how many minutes it takes to go 1 mile, it's easy to determine the salt discharge per mile. Charts are available that translate miles per hour into minutes required to travel 1 mile. For example, it takes 2 minutes to go 1 mile if the speed is 30 miles per hour. That's 2 minutes worth of salt, or 2 times 250, 500 pounds per mile. The calculations are put on a calibration card to show the operator the control setting for proper salt discharge at each speed. The calibration card should be placed in the truck and kept there, and a duplicate filed in the office. Let's use the numbers from the example to show how the calibration method works. If conditions call for 500 pounds of salt per mile, the control is set at 4, and the truck must maintain 30 miles per hour. But if grades, traffic, or intersections slow it down, the discharge will be more than 2 minutes worth of salt per mile. At 15 miles per hour, for instance, it's doubled. So, the salt discharge must be reduced by moving the control down to the correct setting for the slower speed. If the speed is increased, the opposite occurs. Less salt is spread. So the salt discharge must be increased by moving the control up to the correct setting. Keeping the speed and control in correct relationship is vital to applying the specified amount of salt per mile. Not enough salt, and the roads remain hazardous. Too much salt, and the environment may be harmed. Both are wasteful. The right amount avoids waste and criticism and quickly restores mobility and safety. Use of automatic spreader controls will provide constant, accurate control of salt discharge and eliminate the need for continually changing the control setting. The automatic control dial is simply set for the amount of salt required per mile. Then, no matter how fast or slow, uphill or downhill, stop or go, that is precisely what will be spread, because automatic controls vary the salt discharge in relation to the forward speed of the truck. Automatic controls are growing in popularity because they prevent overuse of salt. They help to protect the environment and quickly pay for themselves by saving on salt use. They eliminate the problem of salt piling up when trucks reach stop signs, traffic lights, and intersections, and they make spreading operations much easier for the driver. Automatic controls ensure applying the correct amount of salt. Whether using manual or automatic controls, it's important that the spinner isn't throwing the salt too far. Not only is that potentially damaging to bystanders, parked vehicles, and roadside vegetation, it's wasteful. Usually, a narrow band just a few feet wide is all that's necessary. Salt should always be spread at the high part of the pavement. That means the crown on straight roads and the high side of super elevated curves. Then, brine will flow across the pavement to melt ice over the full width. Anyone who has tried to fight snow from the top down in jammed traffic and among stalled vehicles will agree it's a lot easier and more sensible to fight it from the bottom up. Maintenance agencies often use weather warning services to reduce the chance of being caught by surprise. With up-to-the-minute weather information, crews can be alerted or called in promptly, even at night or on weekends when so many storms seem to strike. Snowfighters and equipment must be ready to roll when the storm starts, but it's important to take a few minutes to conduct a walk-around inspection of the truck before leaving the yard. Snowfighters should be sure they're in good condition too. Snow fighting often requires many long hours on the job that could cause drowsiness and reduce reaction time and efficiency. With the walk-around inspection complete, it's time to begin the serious business of clearing the roads. If it's a two-lane road and there's a light snow, the work is relatively simple. A pass in both directions, spreading the proper amount of salt, and the road is soon safe for traffic. Heavier snow or multiple-lane highways present more complex problems. Many departments use tandem plowing, teams of 2 or more plows working in various combinations. Cul-de-sacs, alleys, and other unusual locations require special procedures that may vary depending on available equipment, location of hydrants and shrubs and other vegetation. No single method of snow removal can be specified for these situations. Several methods may satisfy the needs of the individual agencies. Many trucks have two-way radio communication with their operations center. This is important for exchange of information on weather or road conditions. Communication with the public is also important. Snow Control Operations Centers should keep local radio, TV, and newspapers informed about what's being done to keep streets and highways open and to alert them to possible trouble areas for motorists. Questions should be answered honestly and politely. Helpfulness and courtesy are important for any public works agency. Snow fighting doesn't end simply with keeping traffic lanes clear. It's important to follow up after a storm. Bridges and overpasses must be cleared to make room for the next snowfall and to prevent melted snow from forming icy patches. Drains should be opened to let melted snow run off. Hydrants and other facilities essential to public safety should be cleared. How salt is stored is also important to snow fighters. A salt stockpile should always be covered. If it's out of doors, it should be on an impermeable pad, usually asphalt, to prevent leaching of salt into the ground, and the pile should be covered with tarpaulin, polyethylene, or other waterproof cover. Stockpiles should be properly shaped in a long windrow so the working face is small and easy to recover. There are any number of practical storage facilities available for salt. Prefabricated wood dome structures, concrete domes, and other structures and buildings with numerous designs and materials. Salt stored indoors should also be on an impermeable pad. There should be proper drainage away from the structure, plus adequate ventilation for exhaust fumes. Protecting salt from rain and snow is important for several reasons. Damp salt is harder to handle and spread. Also, runoff from uncovered stockpiles is wasteful and could lead to environmental problems. Drainage must be carefully controlled. Good housekeeping at storage sites is also needed. Loader operators can be especially helpful in returning spilled salt to storage areas. If salt is properly stored, it won't cause environmental problems. By the same token, proper use will assure the trees and other vegetation will not be affected adversely. Nevertheless, many highway and street departments landscape with salt-tolerant trees and shrubs. In the annual battle against winter, reliable equipment, spreader calibration, thorough preparation, and salt all are vital. But they are useless without people who do their jobs well. Know-how and dedication are essential to keeping roads open. Emergency vehicles, commercial traffic, and motorists must be able to travel freely and safely on winter roads. For that essential mobility, they depend on the snow fighters.
The SALT Institute's The Snowfighters Handbook is an invaluable guide to achieving that essential wintertime mobility. Its 10 chapters cover everything from planning to equipment maintenance, from the importance of teamwork to weather forecasting, from different types of snow to calibrating spreaders, from plowing to safety. The handbook even tells you how to keep the public informed about your activities. Its companion publication is Snowball Snow Fighter. Produced in an easy-to-read cartoon format, this pamphlet presents essential information in a lively, entertaining manner. For timely news updates on snowfighting developments, the Institute publishes a biannual newsletter called Salt and Highway De-icing. It contains practical information which snowfighters can use to help them do the best job possible. Each of these publications is available from the SALT Institute's suburban Washington, D.C. office at 700 North Fairfax Street, Suite 600, Alexandria, Virginia, 22314-2040. The Institute has a wide variety of authoritative materials on de-icing salt and on winter maintenance. As we explain in the following video, salt is indeed the sensible de-icer.
Each winter, more than 150 million motorists in the United States and Canada are threatened with snow and ice-covered roads. They expect these hazards, but they also expect to have safe conditions restored as soon as possible. We have a highly mobile society, and people who rely on motor vehicles for transportation won't tolerate poor winter maintenance that leaves road conditions hazardous for long periods. Motorists don't expect June driving conditions in January, as salt critics often charge, but they do expect reasonably safe driving conditions as soon as possible. Providing good road conditions in winter is a constant challenge to street and highway maintenance crews. Snow fighting is tough and demanding. Snow fighters must be ready to go into action day or night on short notice and work long, tiring hours. But willingness to work long and hard is not enough. Snow fighters also must have the right equipment and use efficient economic methods. During a storm, the object is to clear the roads as quickly as possible with the least effort and the least cost to make roads safe again. Most snow fighters agree that sound preparation, good plowing, and sensible salting are the best snow fighting tactics. But some agencies still use large amounts of abrasives, such as sand and cinders, instead of using straight salt, partly because they believe abrasives are economical. But abrasives can't cause melting, and therefore can't help remove snow and ice. They only provide temporary traction. Initially, abrasives may cost less than salt, but when the costs of mixing in salt to prevent freeze-up, labor, and equipment are included, the initial cost difference narrows considerably. Add to that the cost of spring cleanup, and abrasives usually end up costing more than salt. When all these factors are considered, salt proves less expensive, and it clears the roads. Although salt's melting action slows down at colder temperatures, the addition of a small amount of liquid calcium chloride to the salt just before or as it is spread will make the salt work faster and extend its range of quick effectiveness. This increased melting action makes it unnecessary to switch to abrasives in colder temperatures. Some agencies use abrasives merely because they are more visible and the public can see that the roads have been treated. Though salt isn't as visible on a road, the melting snow and ice and patches of bare pavement will quickly indicate that the roads have been salted. It's important to get salt down early in a storm. This fights snow from the bottom up. A salt brine quickly forms between the snow and the road surface, preventing the snow and ice from bonding to pavement, thus making snow removal easier. With ice, the brine not only helps melt the ice, but helps break it up as vehicle wheels pass over it. High-pressure weather systems usually move in after a snowfall, and most often that means temperatures will drop sharply. Thus, any accumulated ice or hardpack will be more difficult to remove, even with salt. Once salt brine gets between snow or ice and the pavement, plowing can quickly provide a bare road surface. If hardpack is allowed to form without the use of salt, the hardpack will bond to the pavement. Removing it by mechanical plowing will be extremely difficult, sometimes impossible. Salt has definite advantages over abrasives. Salt is ready for application when it's delivered. Abrasives are not. Some salt must be added and mixed to prevent freeze-up of the abrasive stockpile. The amount ranges from just enough to prevent stockpile freeze-up to amounts of salt that would actually do the job alone without the abrasives in the mix. Salt melts snow and ice. Abrasives don't. They provide only temporary traction. Any melting that occurs with abrasives is caused by the added salt, not by the abrasives. Some users of abrasives also believe that because abrasives are dark, they absorb solar radiation and therefore do some melting. There is very little solar heat to be absorbed during a storm. Some does occur afterward when the sun comes out, or after late winter storms when temperatures often rise. But temperatures usually drop sharply after most winter storms. Salt goes farther. Because abrasives can't remove ice and snow, 2 to 3 times more abrasives than salt. As much as 1,500 to 1,800 pounds per 2-lane mile must be used just to provide temporary traction. On the other hand, salt provides traction while it begins the melting process, and a lot less needs to be spread. Salt requires less equipment. Because it takes less salt to treat a road, less equipment, less labor, less time are required to cover a specific distance than with abrasives. Abrasives remain on roads long after their use. Salt does not. Abrasives kicked up by vehicle wheels often cause pitting of windshields. They also chip paint on the front and side of cars and trucks. Salt splashed on vehicles is easily washed off. Washing a vehicle frequently can help protect it from corrosion. Abrasive damage is immediately permanent. Abrasive material that remains on roads after snow and ice are cleared away is sometimes responsible for skidding accidents. The abrasive particles have the effect of tiny ball bearings or marbles. They're especially hazardous to motorcycle and bicycle riders. Leftover abrasives also create dust and are unsightly. A major expense with abrasives often overlooked is cleanup. Some agencies sweep up abrasives soon after a storm, but most wait until spring when they use mechanical sweepers and remove abrasives from gutters, shoulders, and storm drains. Removal of abrasives from streets is necessary to control dust, as well as to avoid damage. Although it may not be necessary to clean up abrasives on rural roads each year, they will eventually have to be cleaned up. Otherwise, the buildup of abrasives will interfere with proper drainage and cause damaging runoff that erodes soil and washes out guardrails. Abrasives buildup also can cause ponding of water that will damage roads and shoulders. Salt requires no cleanup and results in no such damage. The man-hours saved by mechanical sweeping and manual cleanup can be applied to other necessary projects. Another reason to clean up abrasives is to prevent silting of lakes and streams. This is just as important as proper drainage of salt runoff to prevent damage to water supplies or vegetation. There should be no environmental problems with salt if there's good storage, calibration of spreaders, and proper salt application. Lush and healthy vegetation along hundreds of thousands of miles of streets and highways that are treated with salt in winter offers proof that using salt sensibly and storing it properly leaves the surrounding environment unharmed. Vehicle corrosion appears to be the primary concern of salt critics. Salt can speed up corrosion, but the chances of a vehicle rusting can be reduced considerably by the owner's thoughtful care, by touching up nicks and scratches before winter, by waxing the car or truck, by washing it regularly throughout the winter. This is important even now when vehicle manufacturers, particularly in the U.S. and Canada, are doing so much at time of production to eliminate the corrosion problem. In recent years, automakers have made great efforts to minimize corrosion by better design, by using better materials, zinc-coated steel, plastics, and other protective coatings and processes, and their efforts are continuing. North American automakers, in particular, are now offering warranties against rust penetration for as long as 5 years and 50,000 miles. There are also good commercial anti-corrosion processes available to owners after they buy their vehicles. But even with built-in protection, the owner should give his vehicle the necessary care to help prevent corrosion. It's just common sense to protect a car from a harsh winter environment. Protecting people from the hazardous winter road environment is the job of the street and highway maintenance departments. They need salt to effectively combat snow and ice. In this city, they believe in using salt. Unfortunately, they ran out of it just before this late winter storm. Unsalted streets are unsafe streets. Unsalted streets also waste energy. Research has shown that slippery streets covered with snow or ice waste fuel. The published results concluded that the amount of gasoline that a vehicle engine consumes is directly related to the forces that it has to overcome. The condition for optimum fuel consumption is well-inflated, good tires operating on a dry, high-type pavement. Ice and snow cause vehicle wheel slippage, which increases fuel consumption. Also, as snow builds up, more energy is required to push the snow down so the wheels can move forward. Traffic over the snow creates an uneven driving surface, and when vehicle wheels continuously have to go over these bumps and in and out of these depressions, gas mileage is reduced even more. The study showed that passenger car fuel consumption increases 45 to 60% on just 2 inches of snow lying on top of hardpack. Tests conducted in Pennsylvania and elsewhere demonstrated that when all factors were considered, salt was less expensive and provided a higher level of service with clear roads. With abrasives, the roads were never cleared until there was natural melting by solar radiation and rising temperatures. Winter maintenance agencies using abrasives are invited to conduct their own tests to determine the effectiveness and economy of using straight salt, mostly in conjunction with plowing or snow and ice control. A special Salt Institute form is available for making a comparative cost analysis of salt and abrasives. Our field staff will help any agency make the evaluation. De-icing salt should not present problems. The technology to avoid them is available. Where problems do exist, they are easily solved and eliminated. Sensible salting. That's what provides the most efficient winter maintenance at the least cost. Salt saves. It saves time, equipment, manpower. It saves fuel, saves money, and saves lives.
Using salt properly begins with proper storage. The Salt Storage Handbook is the definitive reference guide for proper handling and storage of de-icing salt. It covers almost everything, from the whys of bulk storage to the need for inside storage, from quantities to ordering, from site selection to space requirements. There's even a comprehensive checklist for design, safety, access, legal considerations, housekeeping, and drainage. When you do a good job with your storage, you probably will want to enter the Salt Institute's Excellence in Storage Award competition. It too provides you with a comprehensive overview of your handling and storage practices. And the recognition which winners receive helps prove they are a good community neighbor, truly interested in sound environmental practices and worker safety. The effect of de-icing salt on our environment is probably the most frequently expressed concern which public works officials receive. Unfortunately, too many opinions are based on misinformation, exaggerations, and overreaction. In a factual, straightforward manner, this report gives the facts about salt's relationship to road, bridge, and vehicle corrosion, roadside vegetation, human health, and wildlife and fish. Perhaps the Salt Institute's most successful program is sensible salting. Since 1972, this program has used a common-sense approach to judicious application of de-icing salt. When you use de-icing salt, you use a mineral that has benefited mankind since the beginning of time, as is explained in the following award-winning video, Salt, the Essence of Life.
There are places in this world, remote, isolated places, where the passage of years has had little impact, where certain activities have gone on practically unaltered for centuries beyond memory. There are places in this world where men labor under a merciless sun, tearing a life-giving substance from a reluctant, unforgiving earth. The substance they sweat and strain after is one their ancestors sought in much the same way. There are places in this world where desert caravans still move slowly, gracefully over the trails established in antiquity, transporting what caravans have always transported. What they carried was one of the first items of commerce. Often it was traded for gold. Great cities grew up along its trade routes. Battles have been fought over it. It has been used for money, and in some places, it was nearly as precious as gold. Yet, it is not rare. Rather, it is as abundant as the sea around us. Salt. What is the mystery of this unique mineral? What magic does it possess that it has had such a profound and lasting impact on human history? The answers are everywhere, but we begin here with the oceans from which in some dim, shrouded past, life first emerged. Majestic, powerful, surging, constantly restless, they alone are the source, the motherlode for every grain of salt found on Earth. Once the seas covered vast areas of land, but with time, they receded to their present boundaries. Avery Island, Louisiana. Unspoiled, seemingly untouched by time. A sanctuary for wildlife. It is one of the places where the oceans left behind a fantastic legacy. A testimony to their primeval movements, an almost inexhaustible supply of salt. 1,000 feet beneath this tranquil beauty, there throbs a half-lit subterranean world, the world of the deep mine, where men and machines draw salt from the bowels of the earth, digging out long buried deposits left behind eons after the ocean's waters evaporated into history. Once strong men worked slowly, laboring with picks and shovels. Today, the precise use of explosives has made these hand tools obsolete and created huge underground galleries carved out of salt. And the machines, looking very much like children's toys, begin the job of collecting it here. Thousands of tons of rock salt a day. Today, there are still places where salt is harvested as it was over 3,500 years ago. Sun and wind evaporate seawater trapped in shallow ponds, leaving behind a residue of salt. Salt to be gathered either by strong men or by the awesome products of 20th century technology. San Francisco Bay between September and December. Where once an Indian tribe took salt from mudflats and marshes, specially designed harvesters tear up a 6-inch crust of salt. That crust is the result of a long process in which seawater is moved from pond to pond, its level of salinity increasing as evaporation takes place. It may take 5 years for the salt to crystallize, and then, like any other crop, it is ready to be harvested. Harvested at the astounding rate of 20,000 tons a day. By every standard, this is an enormous operation. An operation whose production facilities spread out over 26,000 acres. The work goes on 24 hours a day. The salt is placed into miniature railroad cars, which carry it to a wash house. There, using saturated brine, seawater, and fresh water, the salt is cleaned and impurities removed. Clearly, modern technology is at work here, but solar evaporation remains essentially a natural process, relying on maximum sunshine, minimum rain, and ample wind to produce mountains of salt. Mountains of pure salt that can rise at the peak of the harvest 100 feet into the air. If solar evaporation needs sunlight and deep mining needs explosives, brine wells need only fresh water. A pipe is driven into the salt deposit far below the surface, water pumped down to dissolve the salt, and the dissolved salt is brought back to the surface in the form of brine. Then at the surface, the process of transforming that brine to salt begins. It's called the vacuum pan method. Developed in the 1880s, it all takes place within a series of huge cone-shaped evaporators, or pans, into which the brine is forced, heated until crystals form, then dried until all that remains is salt. No matter where salt comes from or how it is obtained, quality control never ceases. Standards are high and strict for each step in the manufacturing process. Until those standards are met, then and only then is it ready to be packaged. The flow never stops. A pure white stream continually being loaded into waiting trucks, trains, and barges. Moving salt from one place to another has always preoccupied man. Early traders used rivers. Caravans carried it across deserts and over mountains. One of the oldest Roman highways, the Via Salaria, the Salt Road, was built expressly to carry salt to Rome from works along the Mediterranean Sea. Time has changed only technique. All over the United States and Canada, salt is moved efficiently, quickly, daily, from where it is produced and processed to where it is needed. Needed to play a vital role in a surprising, a remarkable number of jobs, and to touch us all in one way or another. In the shadow of the Rocky Mountains, near the tiny town of West Cliff, Colorado, Ralph Austin runs a large cattle ranch. It's a way of life he's inherited from his forebears. And beef cattle are what his business is all about. The stronger, healthier, and larger they are, the more they will fetch at auction. From long experience, Ralph Austin knows precisely what salt can do for his cattle.
Salt is a very important mineral to the livestock mineral. I mean, in all types of livestock. It's a mineral that they don't get unless you supplement feed them. Particularly in this range country, where the ground is so dry, it's not saline or anything, so they can't get it out of grasses and stuff. And I like to use iodized salt. It holds down on foot rot, diphtheria, and some forms of trichitis, which is pink eye.
From the back of his pickup truck, Ralph Austin dispenses the 50-pound blocks of salt that are so vital to his cattle. Austin uses about 1.5 tons a week, a small part of the nearly 2 million tons of salt fed to cattle each year. Because animals instinctively know they must have salt to survive and will never eat more than they need, ranchers will use it to ensure and regulate their cattle's intake of other minerals and proteins, which help maintain health and steady growth. Further, salt can be a labor-saving device. Animals will go wherever it is put. Thus, a rancher, by simply changing where salt blocks are placed, can ease the job of moving his cattle from pasture to pasture. When Ralph Austin was a boy, his father fed rock salt to his cattle. In the years since then, science has refined and broadened the role salt has to play in livestock nutrition. On ranches everywhere, there is little doubt about how vital it is. A mountain stream bursting downhill, sparkling, cold, crystal clear. But clear as it is, there is a good chance that its water is full of impurities, that in making contact with the earth, the water has picked up minerals that have made it hard. In much of Canada and many parts of the United States, these invisible minerals cause problems that must be faced daily, problems that plague cities like Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas. It has gambling, neon signs that turn night into day, and the kind of round-the-clock excitement that attracts people from all over the world. Las Vegas also has hard water. But the guests of the giant hotels that dot this city never bathe in it, never see its effects. For deep within these hotels, where guests never go, water softeners, using the same process found in private homes, take incoming hard water and treat it to remove hardness. Hardness which can destroy a plumbing system. Salt makes this process work. The results of this water softening may not be obvious to guests in plush hotels like Caesar's Palace, but without it, they would be complaining about dishes and silverware that are spotted, laundry that is gray, and porcelain surfaces that are stained. Without it, they would complain that their table, so elegantly set, does not sparkle. Without it, they would complain about soap that won't lather while bathing, and of hair that is dull, lusterless, and unmanageable after shampooing. Hard water, prevalent in countless cities and towns, is responsible for these difficulties and many others. Yet the rainwater that feeds rivers and streams is naturally soft. Where hardness robs this quality, salt, with its unique properties, can help restore it, making water soft again, just as it was when it started out, as rain. Henderson, Nevada, only 8 miles from Las Vegas, yet a world apart. Here, under rugged mountains, the magic of modern chemistry is at work daily, using salt in ways undreamed of generations ago. quiet, rural. Henderson is home to a chemical plant that makes chlorine and caustic soda, both derived from salt, which is turned into a brine solution and put through a complex electrolysis procedure. By far the greatest use for salt is in the production of chemicals. Of these, chlorine, which is used to purify drinking water, and caustic soda are the most widely used. These chemicals, in turn, are used in the production of a whole spectrum of products, from soaps to paper, from detergents to plastics, from synthetic rubber to fabrics. Here at a textile plant in Lancaster, South Carolina, 78,000 pounds of salt a month is used in the dyeing of fabrics. Stu Beasley, the plant lab manager, understands the historic connection between textiles and salt.
Salt has been used for 300 years in the dyeing industry. Back when you were taking colorants from plants and trees to color fabrics, salt was used then to wet your bath out and get better yield from these colorants. Dyes have always been expensive, and nowadays salt is even more helpful in getting better yield from your colors. If we didn't use salt, we'd have a fabric that would have a wax papery look appearance, mealy as we call it in the dyeing industry.
Man has been harvesting and enjoying the bounty of the earth for years uncounted. Today, however, these riches, more often than not, are eaten long after they have been picked, long after they have been transported hundreds or thousands of miles to market. For many people, tomatoes and other vegetables do not come fresh. They come either frozen or in cans. Without salt, it would be difficult for the frozen food or canning industry to exist. For salt, often added in the form of quickly dissolving tablets, acts not only as a taste enhancer, but more importantly, as a preservative. The usefulness of salt with regard to food reaches back to the dawn of civilization, when man learned to cure meat, fish, and poultry with it. Pickles and olives are cured with salt. Meat packing requires it, as does the making of dairy products like butter and cheese. At a cheese cooperative in Marshfield, Wisconsin, over 110,000 pounds of cheddar cheese is made every day. Much of it will age for 8 or 9 months, yet none of it would be eaten if salt were not added to act as a preservative. Within a week, the cheese would be rancid and soft, totally inedible. But here again, salt is more than a preservative. It is added in specific amounts to heighten taste. In fact, of all the uses man has devised through the years for this mineral, one of the most remarkable is using salt as a taste enhancer. For salt, in just the right proportions, has the marvelous ability to develop, to bring to the surface, food's natural flavor. The brilliance of fall. Nowhere is it more striking than in Middlebury, Vermont. Yet for all its colorful beauty, autumn signals the approach of a special set of problems. Like most New England towns, Middlebury solves its winter problems in a traditional way, at a town meeting. Town manager David Crawford explains.
The final conclusion of the town meeting was that we should have a balanced use of salt and a reasonable use of salt. The town has real problems in that we are a hilly community. Our downtown has a real need for safe movement of people, and the use of salt meets that need.
Snow is commonplace in Middlebury, as it is in many cities and towns across Canada and the northern United States. Over 100 inches falls here during an average winter. The town's officials know that salt, which melts snow, keeps it plowable and prevents snow, and in this case ice, from sticking to pavement surfaces, is the best way to clear streets and roads. In the yearly winter battle to provide safety and mobility on thoroughfares, salt, in addition to the snowplow, is a frontline weapon. Nothing else works as well. Other chemicals are too expensive. Sand and cinders offer only temporary traction, require costly cleanup, and cannot melt snow and ice. In fact, salt offers the only real solution in making roads safe in winter.
Okay, who's got the end?
Me? He's got one end and I got the other one on my knees.
Okay.
It has been estimated that salt has some 14,000 uses. Of these, none is more important than its use with regard to human well-being.
Get that side. Dave, get that side. No, you get it.
The clear liquid so often being administered intravenously by rescue squads at the scene of an accident is, in fact, a saline solution. For years, it has been used in the management of blood loss caused by shock or hemorrhage.
Let's go. Quick. Got it.
Because salt and water make up so much of the blood, this solution can briefly restore blood volume and save lives. But its use is not limited to accidents. In the intensive care units of hospitals everywhere, saline solutions are vitally important. Dr. Frank Colella, head of critical care at Prince George's General Hospital, Cheverly, Maryland.
In the intensive care unit, we use saline solutions on nearly every patient to maintain the normal composition of body electrolytes. Salt is made of sodium and chloride, and both of those constituents are found in the blood. And when patients are totally dependent on intravenous calories and fluids, we need to maintain the same concentrations in their blood as normal, and we do that through the use of salt solutions.
And in the operating room, salt solutions keep patients from going into shock during their ordeal. In fact, the simple addition of iodide to table salt has practically eliminated iodine deficiency goiters in the United States and Canada. That salt and our health are so closely intertwined is natural, for each of us has about 7 ounces of it dissolved in our systems. It regulates the exchange of water between body cells and their surrounding fluid, moving food in and waste out. It provides the sodium that is a component of tears, saliva, mother's milk, and is an essential part of the digestive fluid in our stomachs. Without salt, without the numerous, intricate functions it carries out in our bodies, we would die.
I wanted a girl. Well, it is.
The miracle of birth. After 9 months, a child is thrust from the protection of the saline solution of its embryonic sac. Within this child, not yet 1 minute old, as within each of us, there flows an internal sea. Its saltiness reminiscent of the primeval oceans that mothered all life, an eternal reminder of a distant human heritage. The salt constantly produced by the descendants of those oceans is as salt has always been, a simple substance taken for granted. Yet internally, externally, salt is an absolutely necessary part of our lives. We cannot live without it.
As we've seen, salt is an incredibly flexible, readily available mineral that is at our disposal to benefit the world in which we live. The Salt Institute is your best resource for authoritative and useful information on all aspects of its production and use. Whenever you need facts about salt, the Salt Institute is your best source. Please write or call us. And thank you for your attention to this video presentation.